8 from there this morning. Good morning to you.
Hello, Gillian. I'm not sure what you know.
Yes, what can you tell us? What's happening in Cape Town this morning?
This is what is happening in Cape Town. Nothing is happening in Cape Town. Can you believe it? We are still waiting for the president.
And tell us, what is their office saying?
It's just amazing. Hey? Can you believe it? What had happened was up until last night,
yes.
They had confirmed that he'll certainly be here. In fact, they sent the security people to come and do a sweep here in our studios, just to make sure, of course, that, it's a procedure. It's an SOP, standing operating procedure for the presidency if they're going to be doing an interview. So they sent them through. I was in contact with people within the presidency's office up until very late last night, and everyone was sure that he will certainly be here. But I hear this morning that he went on some assignment and got caught up and is unable to come through. So it's just becoming quite difficult. I don't know. Maybe it's the reflection of what is happening again, just on the ground, because there seems to be a lot of disorganization. And this is just my opinion.
So, Forum at 8, are you doing an open line this morning?
That's what we'll do. That's what we will do. We will do an open line. Perhaps I should just throw out some of the issues that, again, we would have been interested to talk to the president about. And these are the issues that we had prepared. I mean, we were going to talk about the anger that's simmering among traditional ANC supporters. Whether you talk about the reports this morning of ANC allies now backing the DA in the Northern Cape, or you're talking about a report coming out of KZN on Monday. Apparently, the car belonging to the provincial chairperson of the ANC was stoned by ANC members who were very unhappy about the list processes in KwaZulu-Natal. Whether, of course, also you talk about here in the Western Cape, and we were making reference to that a little earlier on where we were talking about one of the ANC's flagship municipalities, which is the municipality here in the Western Cape, that now people are so unhappy they've decided to form an organization of their own in Plattenberg Bay, that is, to form an organization of their own, but they are also working together with the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance just yesterday releasing statistics and suggesting that as far as they are concerned, they've almost tripled their black support across the country. It obviously may very well mean problems for the ANC. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the president then not pitching up on the program this morning. But what we'll do again is just open up the lines and find out from traditional ANC supporters what do they think is happening on the ground, but also just generally all South Africans, what do they think is happening where the ANC is concerned? And we'll take their thoughts then on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Just also generally talk about the pace and what's happening with the campaigning throughout the country, if you have any views that you'd like to share with us. 0891 104 208. We've been stood up by the president this morning. You probably then would want to talk to us about that particular issue as well. 0891 104 208. And we'll take your SMSs at 34701 here on SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. Well, seeing that we've got a bit of time, we will be chatting in a minute or two to Advocate Pansy Tlagula of the IEC. We spoke to her, I think it was yesterday, just checking on the state of readiness. I think she's on the line now, is she? Advocate Tlagula, are you on the line? All right, we'll try for her. We'll put a call through to her. But we'll certainly put a call through to her and get her thoughts on the state of readiness. All right, then. We will open the lines, throw them open. It's an open line here on the forum at 8. It's fantastic. Let's get your views at 12 minutes after 8. What do you think about the run-up to the elections in this country? Do you think that the parties are doing almost all they can? There was a very interesting quote. I'm not sure if people would have heard it on Sunday. It came through again from President Jacob Zuma, who said that after visiting 102 places in the Western Cape, he started wondering why in the first place he fought for the liberation of this country, just looking at the state of those particular places. And we were certainly going to ask him whether he thinks the same of certain areas across the country as well. Does he think that perhaps a lot still needs to be done in order to ensure that people are serviced? Another issue, of course, coming up are the service delivery protests. And what do you make of all those service delivery protests? Do you think that the ANC is doing particularly, and I'm saying the ANC because it controls most of the municipalities across the country? 0891 104 208. 08911042008. Then let's get your thoughts. 08911042008 34701. Perhaps it's a blessing in disguise in a way, because then we get to have our way. We get to say whatever we want to say without official dom intervening on these issues. We get to express our feelings and thoughts about how our country is run, how our municipality is being run across the country. 34701 is the SMS line. Then it's 13 minutes after 8. You with the forum at 8. That was supposed to be an exclusive interview with the president. Again, as I say, we've been dumped this morning for whatever reason, but that's not the issue anymore. We would like to hear your thoughts. 0891 104 0891 104 Let's see if we can take a quick commercial break then and come back and take more of your thoughts.
According to the Constitution, a municipality must structure and manage its administration and budgeting and planning processes to give priority to the basic needs of the community and to promote the social and economic development of the community. Listen daily to SABC Radio when political parties debate. On the 18th of May this year, you have a right to decide. The power is yours. South Africa's local government elections, the 18th of May 2011. This message is brought to you by SABC Radio in support of democracy.
You're late for nursery school today. What kept you, girlfriend? My mommy took me for another test. And I'm still not HIV positive. It's confirmed now for sure. Yippee! Me too. My mom tested for HIV as soon as she knew she was pregnant and started on treatment immediately. All parents should do the same. You're always right, babe. You're such a charmer.
By testing early in pregnancy, together you can protect your baby from HIV. An HIV-free generation is possible. Make it happen. It begins with you.
SAFM supports local music, jazz, classical, gospel, rhythm and blues, and many other genres. Do not buy fake cassettes, CDs and DVDs. Support local music. Stop piracy. SAFM, South Africa's news and information leader. SAFM is an SABC radio station.
The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
It is 8:15 now here on the Forum at 8. Apparently the president now is on the line. Let's see if we can get through to President. A very good morning to you, Mr. President.
Good morning, Perpetua.
Oh, thank you very much for coming through. We had been hoping to have a chat in Cape Town.
Yes, I know. I know. Now, of course, we could talk now over the phone. I hope that will do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fine. Let's get straight to it then. The part of the reason, of course, I mean, we were going to talk about the ANC's election campaign, and I see that you're throwing pretty much everything, including the kitchen sink, at particularly the Western Cape. Why is that?
Well, as you know, of all the metros, major metros, as well as the province, only the Western Cape that we are not in charge. Certainly, there are specific things that we are looking at in terms of our own programs for the country of transformation, of closing the gap, and we think that our own deductions with the Western Cape is that program is not moving as we would have wanted to, and therefore the winning of the Western Cape is absolutely crucial so that Western Cape doesn't remain behind.
But what do you say to the people of the Western Cape? Do you say we will make your lives better? And when you say so, you say we'll make your lives better like what? In other words, what is the example that you give to them?
Well, I give the example which they themselves are aware of. The Western Cape, Perpetua, is almost still the same as it was before 1994, because if you're in the Western Cape, you are in two worlds in one. You have very clearly the white, well-to-do areas of the Western Cape, you have the black, which are deteriorating instead of actually developing. That is your Kukulet, your Mitchell's Plain, your Khayelitsha, etc. And this from a distance you could say maybe it's just a talk, but you have to be there. I have been there as I've been campaigning. The conditions are appalling, and we don't see any program. And the people say there is absolutely no program, no response in the municipality when they raise issues. They showed me the blocked sewages which are not attended to, electricity falling, the holes on the municipality houses. And of course we are saying, once we have our administration which is there to close the gap, to transform life, to change the quality of life, that is what we are going to do. That is the reason why we have put this specific mayor candidate who comes from the people, who would understand the plight of the people, who is thinking, whose discussion of the budget, whatever, and programs will be geared towards addressing that specific kind of a problem.
But Mr. President, sorry to interrupt you, because people elsewhere in the country then would say, well, let's start here in the Western Cape. People in the Western Cape, when you say that to them and you say, well, look at Langa, look at Khayelitsha, they will say, well, other parts of the country are no better. In other words, that kind of squalid living condition is prevalent in any other ANC-run municipality.
Well, there are others which are still lagging behind, but there are others who could point to that the program has changed or the life is changing. What I'm talking about here is that in the Western Cape, you don't hear even of a program that can say we are in the process of addressing these. If you go to ANC ones, there are programs. The only thing that others have not been touched are because of certain other things, because you could not solve all the problem overnight. Before I came to the Western Cape, I was in Johannesburg and I was in Soweto. Soweto has completely changed. So it's not like a theory. It's not like a slogan. It has changed because there's a program to change Soweto. And it's not that it has been completed, but you can see the program. You wake up in Soweto today, unlike before, that certain things you could only get if you took a train or a taxi to Johannesburg.
Sure.
Today you could wake up in Soweto and do everything in Soweto. It's not happening in the Western Cape.
Sure. Two things, though, Mr. President, about Soweto. People say, well, yes, indeed, you are right. Things have changed in Soweto, but they changed from a very low base. That's one. Two, the ANC can't 17 years down the line say the only shining example of service delivery that it has is Soweto. Can the ANC continue to say that?
No, it's not only Soweto. It's not. I'm just quoting Soweto as a metro with regard to the metro of Cape Town. I was in Musi before, shortly after Soweto. People in Musi, which is a rural municipality, absolutely happy. Streets have been paved. New bridges have been made to connect what you call villages. It's a shining example. A clinic has been brought to the people. People were saying to me in Musi, thanks God, we can now see the question of taking the services to the people. Here is the clinic. They showed it to me. It's not just Soweto. I'm quoting Soweto in regard to the level of metro, but there are places we have dealt with the question of water, electricity, and sewage. Big numbers in this country are getting it now. So there is a program that is moving forward. What I'm saying, different from other areas where there's a program and plans. For an example, I was in Durban yesterday. Wamashu Hostel. There are flats that are being built, as it is a question in Dube Hostel in Johannesburg. I was in a hostel in the Western Cape. There is absolutely worse, appalling conditions. This is comparison I'm making.
Sure, but if that is the case, then why are traditional ANC supporters this angry? And I'm saying this based on the number of service delivery protests that we're seeing in this country, but also based on the stories that are happening now. I was quoting earlier on the story in the Northern Cape where traditional allies like the SACP are now joining forces with the DA. It is happening again in Plettenberg Bay where people who were unhappy are forming their own organization and joining forces with the DA. And in KwaZulu-Natal, where you were, on Monday, members of the ANC stoning the car of the chairperson of the ANC. Traditional members of the ANC are angry at the party.
Now, Pepet, you may be mixing two things. You may be mixing two things. The stoning of the car is not on the service delivery. What has been happening, which has added some activities, are ANC members who are complaining about the list process. That's a different from service delivery.
And then so let's talk about service delivery. I was talking to the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance. Just last year alone, first 3 months of the year, there were more service delivery protests in this country than there were ever since 1994. In other words, just last year, incredible levels of dissatisfaction.
Of course, Perpetua, you'll realize that in South Africa, unlike in other countries, the beauty is that there's democracy, people can express themselves, people can call the attention of government to bring services in areas where services have not reached. Partly because I think you would be a magician if you could lift up your finger and say, let there be a development throughout the country one day. You are dealing with a huge legacy of apartheid, the damage of decades and decades. You couldn't be in every place at the same time. Programs are being made, but of course people are impatient, correctly so, as they were impatient about their own freedom. And the resources, you do not have all the resources, just you can therefore put everything one day. And we could look at the statistics, Gwala, which will show you the progress we have made. But we have also admitted that there's still much more to be done. We are not saying we've done everything. But I'm saying in comparison, because that's where the point starts, is that in a municipality, in a province, which is not under the ANC, things are deteriorating rather than things going forward. That's the point we're making.
Let's talk a little bit then about the ANC list processes, which is the reason why people are even going as far as stoning the car of the chairperson of the ANC. What do you make of that? I mean, some people are saying that it actually shows the levels of corruptibility within the party, that people are even willing to steal positions. In other words, the community gets together and says we are choosing Mr. Mukoma to be our councillor, but somebody goes behind closed doors and steal that position.
Well, we can look at it, Perpetua, from different angles. I know that the media looks at it from a different angle, and the critics. I start from this premise in the first instance. Firstly, that the ANC is a big organization. It's not a small, tiny, little organization. Big organization, many members. So you are not dealing with a small thing of fewer people. You're dealing with a massive organization in the first instance. Secondly, what is not appreciated in this process is that the ANC is showing the way to democracy. For the first time, the ANC says the business of selecting candidate councillors must not only be the ANC thing. We must find a way wherein people participate. And this has come as a result of the ANC opening up to people to participate. Therefore, we come and say, here are the people that we think you should choose councillors out of. What do you say? This is what should be applauded and praised. But people are looking at one side, that here is democracy making people to feel they are part of the choosing of the people who are going to govern them at the local level. It's not just the ANC people only are complaining. Even from the point of view you are raising, some communities are saying, no, it did not go according to what we had said. So you can't say you can't say it's just the ANC issue only. But what is important is that people are owning up to the process. They feel it is their own process. That's a positive side of this process. Of course, there are teething problems in any new thing. And it cannot be put as a massive problem. It's not. It is isolated areas where people have complained. And we have said as a result of that, let us establish a team that is going to investigate so that we'll correct where there are people who could have stolen positions of other people. And that will be, as I'm saying, will be the issues of any bigger organization, really. People should be saying, Perpetua, in other parties you don't even know how councillors are appointed. But in the ANC we are transparent. You know, that's why we can discuss the matter. But of course, we do say there are issues we have indicated to people. That is not an issue. We are going to deal with it. They have stopped doing it. They are now ready campaigning. Moving forward, we'll address that issue. It's part of a living and vibrant and democratic organizations that you will have such interactions with people believing these are my rights. I think in other parties, you don't even know whether people have rights to claim as the ANC members do.
So, Mr. President, what you're saying is you are not really worried that much. I mean, some people are saying that really morality, whatever happened to morality within the ANC when people steal positions? I mean, surely that should worry the ANC.
No, we are not as worried, Mpepet. We are not as worried. We are dealing with the matter. As I said, we have made a statement, an announcement. It has been accepted by the membership. Everybody is campaigning in the ANC now. That's why you are no longer hearing people complaining. In fact, what happened where the chairperson was stoned, it were actually the independent, these people who have declared themselves independent, meeting in a particular area, which made the ANC people to say, but why do you come and meet here? It was actually even a different issue that when then the premier came, there was then the problem. All I'm saying is an isolated incident. You have not had all chairpersons of the ANC out of the 9, just one. But this is an issue. I'm saying it, but the way it is discussed is as if all 7 or 8 have been stoned. Not at all.
All right, just also a final one, because I believe that we've got to let you go. I made mention of a story here in the Western Cape where, I beg your pardon, in the Northern Cape and in the Western Cape, where ANC allies, traditional allies, now are coming together with the Democratic Alliance.
Well, that's democracy, and I think people could have views. And again, I'm not going to say those are dominating. I think you are talking about very specific areas, isolated instances, and once that comes out, I'm sure we are going to address it, because indeed it must be concerning that traditional allies begin to think the way they do. What is the problem? We will investigate that and be able to deal with it.
All right, President, thank you very much for coming through on the line for us. President Jacob Zuma, President of the ANC, talking about the ANC issues, of course, ahead of the local government elections. What we will do, of course, much better than a little earlier on. Of course, we were waiting in this studio. We'll take the news headlines now because it is just after 8:30. And then afterwards, we'll take your thoughts on 0891104208. What do you think about what you've heard this morning? And, of course, also any other issues that may be on your mind in relation to the local government elections. 8:31, Vabakshini Chetty, good morning.
Thank you, Kolani. Good morning. Agriculture Minister Tina Joemat-Petersen says the foot and mouth disease in the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal is under control.
We are convinced that our smallholder farmers have not been that drastically affected. If they were drastically affected, we would have been in a position to replace their livestock.
And now for a wrap of this morning's top stories. ANC Youth League President Julius Malema has reacted for the first time on the recent reports that there are senior ANC leaders who are allegedly plotting to oust ANC President Jacob Zuma.
You know, it's so painful to see our leaders trying to explain themselves on national TV. Hey, I'm not plotting. I'm not plotting. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that.
The second day of the full extradition hearing for Shree Devani will get underway in London today. Devani is wanted in South Africa for allegedly arranging a hit on his new wife in Cape Town last November.
The witness says Dewani told him he was due to marry a sweet girl who he liked. However, he said he wanted to find a way out of his marriage but could not break the engagement as he would be disowned by his family.
The benefits of global economic power shifting from the US and Europe to emerging markets of China, India, Brazil, Russia and South Africa will form part of main discussions at the World Economic Forum for Africa, which starts in Cape Town today.
South Africa has the largest economy on the African continent, has a critical role to play. Our responsibility is to act as a catalyst for growth in the rest of Africa.
And the White House has now said Osama bin Laden was not armed when he was shot by US forces, contradicting its first version of events. I'll be back with a full news update at 9.
Traffic on SAFM.
Problems in Pretoria this morning. Traffic lights down on Duncan at Church. Duncan Street going northbound in towards that intersection is very heavily backed up. The N1 south between Olifantsfontein Road and Allendale Road still tight as well. Still about a 20-minute delay into an earlier collision scene between New Road and Allendale, but the queue extending back as far as Olifants. N1 between Malabongwe and William Nicol is slow, and there's problems around Woodmead this morning. It may be traffic light related. Woodmead Drive very heavy from Maxwell Drive coming down to the Mike 1 Highway, and unusually the M1 from Woodmead Drive going up to the Woodmead Drive exit from Marlborough Drive up to Woodmead is also very heavy, and that's unusual to see at this time of morning. So if you can avoid Woodmead Drive and the Woodmead interchange, you'll beat some heavy traffic flows. And in Cape Town, a couple of issues. One is a collision on the N2 inbound at Rapenburg Road. It's just been moved to the side of the carriageway, but it is sluggish coming through from Jan Smuts Drive as a result of that. And a collision on the N2 into Cape Town at Somerset West, just by Victoria Street. A little bit of a hold-up approaching that one as well. Rob Byrne, AM Live, Traffic Watch.
All right, thank you very much, Robert. It's 26 minutes now before 9. And also here with me in Cape Town is colleague Sigim Gavadeli presenting morning talk from here in Cape Town. Siggy, do you want to have breakfast?
Good, hey, but it'll have to be lunch.
Oh, yeah. No,
because
lunch,
you finish just as I start.
Yeah.
But isn't it strange that we're in the same city and again we're in two different buildings?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's very strange. Well, broadcasting live from the World Economic Forum on Africa here in Cape Town. It's being held under the theme From Vision to Action, Africa's Next Chapter. Some of the themes we're going to be exploring this morning: the role of minerals in Africa's growth and development, and looking at social entrepreneurship, speaking to some young people who will shame even you into action. So that's Morning Talk with me, Siki, between 9 and midday.
Improve your financial wellness this Workers' Month. Ask your employer or union about their financial wellness programs. Good employers should be able to give advice on financial wellness and may provide contact details for people that can help with matters concerning credit, services, goods and medical aids. The NCR urges employers to implement financial wellness programs and encourages employees to use them. For more information, please contact the NCR on 0860 627 627.
To New York and beyond. Now you can fly to the USA with South African Airways and then on to many other American destinations through our partnership with JetBlue Airways. Whether it's Disney in Orlando, rolling the dice in Vegas, a Bears game in Chicago, or the aquarium in Boston, our connectivity will get you there in the shortest possible time and at prices hotter than the inside of a spacesuit. T's and C's apply. Go to flysaa.com or contact your local travel agent and book now. South African Airways, a Star Alliance member.
Bring your vision to life. Buy a bag of PPC Sure Build cement and you could stand a chance to win your share of 1.1 million rand in building material vouchers. Simply fill out an entry form on your PPC Sure Build cement bag and drop it at your participating store. Remember, the more you enter, the more chances you have to win. The competition runs from 1 April to 30 June. Terms and conditions apply. For more info, visit ppc.co.za. PPC Cement. Our strength, your vision.
The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
It is 24 minutes before 9. I'm taking your calls now on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Carl in Johannesburg, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning. It's
Hi.
Karen speaking. Good morning, Xolani. Good morning, Mr. President. Fine, thanks, and you?
All right, go ahead.
I've got a specific question about a situation on the East Rand in Johannesburg that is potentially dangerous.
I don't know if you know that the president is not on the line anymore.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That wasn't quite announced beforehand. I'm sorry. Right, yes. I'm wondering about the situation on the East Rand, and I was wondering how far himself, the President and the ANC is aware of the situation there and what they're doing to mediate between the local traders that have called to throw out all foreign traders from their areas. They've just suspended it temporarily, but I'm wondering how far is the ANC involved in mediating, addressing concerns and protecting foreigners from any repeats of the horrible events we had not so long ago in this country.
All right. There is a possibility that the President may get back on the line again, so if he does come back, we'll certainly put your question. Thanks for calling, though. Janus in Cape Town, good morning.
Good morning, Clara.
Hi.
As I can hear, Mr. President is not on the line.
Yeah, he's not.
But I've got a question. To Mr. President, 17 years of democracy, and my opinion is 5 years of excitement during the President Mandela presidency. Then we had 10 years of standing, actually walking backwards, and then now we've got 2 years actually during the President Zuma presidency, and there is a progress, not big progress, but we are moving forward. My question is to Mr. President, when we actually will get rid of all these affirmative actions cases, because, we should, our constitution doesn't say anything about affirmative action, but from my point of view, I would like to contribute a lot, but I'm feared that we're not going to be recognized for what we're doing. So, Mr. President, please get rid of affirmative action. Many of your members died for standing and for the freedom of our people. Please do something about it, because all together we can build a better future for all of us. Thank you.
All right. That's Janus. Thank you very much, Janus. I believe the President is back on the line now. Mr. President?
Yes, I'm back on the line.
Thank you very much. There were two questions that have come through. One question was in relation to what's happening in the East Rand. There apparently is something called the Gauteng Business Forum that's issued letters threatening foreign-owned businesses to get out of townships. Those townships include Soweto, they include, I think, Guatema, somewhere in the East Rand, and also Tembisa. Is the ANC involved at all?
Well, Tolani, no. I haven't heard of the ANC being involved. I think this is a community issue that people are discussing, and I can't claim to have the inside of it, but it looks like there's a question of how business is being run in those areas, that the manner in which either the pricing of commodities, etc., in the manner in which they bring it very, very low, it affects the business that are doing their businesses normally. And as I heard from what was being talked about, people are saying, why don't we have a discussion to regulate this so that the business activities are fairly done, rather than the manner in which they've been done. I don't have all the details, but it looked like it was a community, but the business people in community, particularly small business, they seem to be addressing the matter, and I'm hoping that a solution would be found that the manner in which business is done does not disadvantage others.
Because the issue bubbling under is the issue of xenophobia. People are worried whether, are we going back to 2008 now?
Well, that would be the big worry all the time. That's why when the issue arises, we ought to move quicker to ensure that we address the issues that are a problem, so that it does not spill over to the feelings of xenophobia. Even at the time when xenophobia issue started, one of the critical issues that was behind this was people who were not necessarily competing for business, but who wanted to loot from the people who were running businesses who were foreigners. And that actually was done. So it did have the economic element in it. That's why it would be important now to handle it very properly, so that if there are any businesses that are done in the pavements or whatever, there should be some regulations. Other people should not feel they are being unfairly treated in terms of business activities. I think particularly the business people ought to come together to work out some regulations, I think, and perhaps government should also help, particularly municipality.
All right, there was a question about affirmative action, and I'm going to ask you to respond to it in a minute, but I need to go to Tabiso in Port Elizabeth first. Okay. Good morning to you, Tabiso.
Yeah, good morning, Tolan. How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome. Go ahead.
Good morning, President. Now, Colin, just in passing, I think we must thank the President for disappointing people who are beginning to think the President has run away from the interview. But be that as it may, Kalani, I stay in Port Elizabeth. What is surprising is that the DA continues to say the metro of Nelson Mandela is not delivering. But when you look at where they go when they come to campaign, they choose selected areas. When you compare the number of years delivery has been taking place in the white areas, comparing it to 17 years, I mean, the ANC has done wonderfully well in terms of service delivery. Even this fight about who the councillor should be, it's not necessarily about delivery. It's about the choice of individuals who think becoming a councillor is a career and you must fight for it because it's a job. The ANC has done wonderful, Colin, in terms of delivering the metro, and we can vouch for it. If Helensville can go to areas where services has been delivered and begin to say this is better than Kailicha, this is better than any other part of the Western Cape where black people are living. Thank you very much, Colin.
Okay, Thabiso, thank you very much. Funani in East London, hello.
Yes, thanks, Polani.
Yes.
I think the writers of the post-colonial Africa have warned us, and we are actually living the nightmare they described. The president says the Western Cape is where it was during the days of apartheid. It may be true, but let me tell him that the Eastern Cape is worse than it was in 1994, meaning before 1994. Statistics are there. One of the things you learn is that poverty in the Eastern Cape has increased from about 60% to about 80%. You learn that Human Development Index moved from about 0.51 to 0.48, somewhere there. So it means in the Eastern Cape, it tells why people are moving from this province to the Western Cape. Go to Zuma municipality, where we've had in a period of 5 years more than 5 mayors in that one municipality. Buffalo City, where I am, we've had, there has never been a municipal manager that spent a year. Municipal manager serves 8 months and then he's gone. They bring a new one. Let's talk about accountability in the ANC. There is no accountability. One of the reasons you'll see that accountability is not in this organization, they will never deliver anything as a government. Whether it's about building houses, building schools, tarring roads and that kind of thing, they get tenders. Because when things go wrong, they say that guy, that tenderpreneur, fucked up in the absence of any better word. So in Azapo, we've been saying, we've been dealing with signs and symptoms of a rotten government. And when we deal with signs and symptoms, we forget the cause, the actual core, where the roots of the problem are. In Azapo, we've argued that if you remove the ANC, a lot of problems we see in the country will disappear.
Okay, Funani, be careful about your language, though, next time. Mr. President, certainly, I mean, we are adults now, so we'd rather use acceptable language. Mr. President.
Well, Polani, I think the two callers who have just called now tells the story that people look at South Africa from where they are. Here is an Azapo man who sees nothing that has been done, totally. That's opposition. That's a job of an opposition to criticize all the time, as I was saying earlier. The reality is what the caller before him was saying. You go to places, you can see progress. And he's correct. I was in Mandela Metro, where I was campaigning. Very clear, visible development that has taken place. Absolutely. But people don't see it. A Zapo fellow who was talking now, he can't see that because he wants to see failure. This is part of democracy.
But is that so, Mr. President? Sorry to interrupt.
It's actually true. It's actually true. One of the things that people don't realize, for an example, is that apartheid did not allow greater numbers of black people to come to the cities. And therefore, the infrastructure in the cities, Xolani, was meant to cater for fewer numbers. With freedom, with democracy, that made people to move from rural areas to urban areas, it meant that huge numbers came to an infrastructure that was not meant to carry so many numbers. And that's the reason why, no matter how many houses you build today, these squatters still continue. Because we are dealing with a very huge issue. Nobody scientifically look at this matter to actually see the challenge that we are faced with.
Sure.
That even if in a township, whether it is in East London or whatever, do you now have more numbers? That's why there are more informal settlements that we've got to deal with. Is a reality that nobody looks at. Despite all of that, we are making progress, and that's what we are saying. That's what the caller before was telling the true story. I could tell you the places I've gone to. There is an improvement which is visible. There are statistics which have been given out by South Africa Statistics, which will argue against what the Azapo man was saying just now.
But the Azapo man, Mr. President, is citing the Human Development Index, and that's not an Azapo figure. That's a United Nations figure that says that since 1994, perhaps the quality of life, living standards in the Eastern Cape have dropped.
No, I'm not saying they haven't. That's why I'm quoting this example to you. What has happened in South Africa? You can't look at it in isolation, because the index that have been quoted are actually reflecting what has happened in terms of what kind of infrastructure and what kind of the population it has now to carry and what progress we are making at the time. Also, South African statistics are very scientific, which will tell you what we have done. For an example, they will tell you that we have delivered water to more people than before 1994. We have delivered electricity to more people before 1994, as well as sewage. So these are the statistics. That's why I'm saying, I started by saying it depends at what corner you are standing. If you are standing at an opposition corner, you would think nothing has happened.
Okay.
But the reality is that things have happened in a variety of ways. That's the point I was making, Colin.
All right, let's take more calls then, Mr. President. KGM, you're in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Mpepeto. Good morning to the President.
Hi.
Morning.
Mpepeto, I wish I had an opportunity like you do of interviewing the President. You know, let me put this challenge to Mr. President. I guess you interviewing him in his capacity as the President of the ANC.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait for the day when politicians in this country, generally, can be honest and true about everything, starting with themselves. You know, you can't push the issue where you're pushing your political agenda at the expense of the people. I'm yet to hear, be it President Zuma, Helen Zille, all of them, I'm yet to hear them acknowledging each other publicly. I mean, Mr. President has made very telling statements about the Western Cape and Cape Town. I happen to stay in Cape Town. I happen to know and live in Gugulethu. He's talking about people talking from the comfort of their positions, which is very true. I mean, in his case, he's talking from the comfort of his position. The truth is, if you go to the length and breadth of this country without being selective, like the leaders of political parties do, I mean, they go to places that are convenient for them at that time because they're trying to drive a point. If you go generally, honestly so, you'll realize that there are places which have improved and there are many places that have not improved since 1994. I'll give you the last example.
Very quickly.
If you go to a place like Mafikeng, which is the capital city of the Northwest Province, Mr. President, if you drive straight, people consider you to be drunk because you can't drive straight with so many potholes in that place. And prior to 1994, the people who stayed in that city knew nothing about potholes. So how do you respond to an example like that?
Okay, all right. KJM, the President will respond in a minute. Mario in Durban, hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
The President said he can't attend to all the service delivery because of resources. I presume it's financial resources. And start from cutting down on luxury cars, five-star hotel, and all the aeroplane business class, you know?
Yeah.
All the business classes and all that. Cut down on that, then there'll be some resources left. And the other thing is, says that Cape Town hasn't got a plan. You know, Dila has already started with a plan of a book. She said there's so much for this, so much for the cars, so much no business class, and all that. Can the ANC start that as well so we can have some resources left?
Okay. All right, Mario. Thank you. Mabalane in Johannesburg. Hello.
Hi, Kolani and the President.
Hi.
Good morning. Yes. My question to the President is, within the 5 apex priorities of the ANC, what are the much orders that the ANC has provided to its candidates who are going to win the municipalities and have to run them? What do we need to do to improve on the many improvements that we already have seen happening under the ANC leadership?
All right. Vusiwe Kaya in East London. Hello.
No, prepared.
Hi.
I want to say two things. One, I agree with the President that there's a lot of development happening in South Africa. And the ANC has been leading this. It's wrong then for people to say there is nothing happening in South Africa. I think the fact that people are moving in and out of urban areas means we're chasing moving targets. But unlike the DA in Cape Town, the ANC is not saying we are going to build open toilets for these people. It says we are going to accommodate people in all the lists. I want to ask the President a question that as a person who sacrificed his life and fought against apartheid and colonization in this country, how does it feel to him to see the DA stealing the political heritage of the ANC, singing ANC songs and claiming the leaders of the ANC and especially the Freedom Charter? Otherwise, I'm happy with the ANC and I'm going to vote the ANC again.
All right, Vusiwe, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Kolan. I'm sure there are a number of issues that people...
Sure, I'll remind you about some. KGM was talking about potholes, particularly in Mafikeng. Mario talking about cutting the fat because people are just too extravagant. Mabalane talking about the apex, 5 apex, and Mvusi, of course, talking about the heritage of the ANC.
Yes, definitely. Kolani, we have not defended areas that have not been developed. We have said very repeatedly that there's been development that has been made, but there is still much more to be done. We are referring to areas as he puts out, and to say what are the problems, why are the people not developing areas, why there are no plans done to deal with those areas. The caller will remember, I've gone to a number of areas, including around Gauteng, where I found shocking conditions. In Gauteng, I did not hide that. I said so, and I said something must be done. It's not only in Gauteng. I went into certain areas in Mpumalanga, which I went on my own. In some areas, I went because people had raised the issues through the hotline that we established to allow people to expose those kind of areas to us. So it's not a one-street kind of way that we are talking about. We have not denied the fact that there are areas and their conditions, and we have not said they are only in the Western Cape. We have said they are in different areas, but we have said there are programs. There are clear programs and priorities that we have put. I don't want to leave this point because it's important, that in the Western Cape, there is nothing you find that has started to move in the black areas. That's the point I'm talking about. I even went in Gauteng, in Durban, in KZN, to the hostels. There are developments to change the hostels there. There is none in the Western Cape. I was there. It's not like reading statistics or hearing about it.
But Mr.
So we have
sorry
not
to
denied
interrupt you.
that. We have not denied that fact.
Yeah, but here's the issue, Mr.
We
President.
have a program to deal with, to change the quality of lives.
And the ANC keeps on talking about the Western Cape, but people will say, well, a couple of years ago, the Cape Town in particular was run by the ANC.
Of course, yes. It has gone back from where the ANC left it from. Those plans that were there, we never had plans of open toilets, Kolan. We never. That is the new thing. We never had that. With regard to the 5 priorities that somebody talked about, certainly, this is what we are looking at. We have said we must do things differently in government. And we have said instead of wanting to do everything, but the 5 priorities do address the very fundamental and critical areas that affects people. And therefore, these plans must cascade down to the local government. And therefore we are saying in the level of local government, where we say let us build better communities together, we are actually going to be introducing more vigorously the programs that talk to the 5 priorities. That means we must therefore look at the resources that must do that. That is why the point raised by somebody else who said cut fat, I think that is a good point to be taken to heart. That for us, if the issue is the issue of resources, let us look where we spend our money, where we could cut fat. Absolutely important suggestion to be made, because that then makes a very positive contribution to the debate as well as to the programs as to what we need to do. We must take that suggestion, look at it, because indeed, if we still have the conditions, and I said this openly, when I was in Canaan, in the Western Cape, I said to myself, no, it doesn't talk good to me that for years that I sacrificed to liberate our people, you could still have people sitting in this kind of conditions. That will apply, Xolani. My feeling will be the same if I look at the pictures on the TV about Uppington. That's what, and that's why my point has been, because in Uppington, it is us who are there. We must move and do something immediately. The feeling is not going to be different. I think we are making this comparison because we are saying at least there's a point where we could go and say, this is what we need to do.
Okay.
And in no way we could want to go backwards. As this has been exposed, for an example, a number of areas where the ETV went to, I've been noting down those areas. Well, those are the areas I'm going to move immediately after elections to ensure that things are being done.
Okay.
We have, in fact, Fonani, established this Department of Performing Monitoring and Evaluation precisely because we want to move in a way where we could get to areas outside of the bureaucracy that moves. And we are strengthening that department precisely to deal with this matter so that we know where there are shortcomings, what we can do, how to fix the problems.
All right, Mr. President, I'm completely out of time. I thank you very much, though, for making yourself available on the line for us this morning. Thanks indeed.
I'm happy, Polani, although there was one question of which I would answer the other day of the affirmative action. No, yes. Affirmative action. I was very keen to answer it, but let us leave it for the other day.
Maybe Sigi will give us half a second. How would you answer?
Well, the affirmative action addresses the legacy of apartheid. You could not have addressed it without affirmative action, because you had a system that deprived the black people of education, of everything, and these people could not, when the economic resources are concentrated on a particular ethnic groups, think that it will happen on its own. You needed affirmative action to ensure that we have a deliberate way of undoing the damage of the past. But I could debate with the person at the right time.
Sure, because Mr. President, one of the issues that you raised yourself at the Freedom Day celebrations is that these municipalities need to get people with proper skills, because at certain instances affirmative action has gone completely haywire, and you find people who have absolutely no skill occupying these positions.
No, what you should tackle there, Xolani, is the action of putting wrong people, not the affirmative per se as an approach to correct the imbalances of the past.
Yeah.
You should criticize those who take wrong people in the name of affirmative action.
Which is what? Which is the ANC deployment policy?
Not at all, my brother. It's not ANC deployment policy. You should criticize that if the ANC deploys the wrong person, not the deployment policy, a wrong person. You look, again, I'll take you the Western Cape example. Has the Western Cape deployed any ANC person in its government? Nothing. It has deployed its own people. That's what governments do in the world. In the United States, the most progressive, once new administration comes in, the old ones go. It's part of democracy. And people here make it as if it's not a part of a democratic thing.
All right, Mr. President, it's an issue.
These are the facts, Kolani, that people distort deliberately.
All
but
right.
I'm very keen to debate the issue of affirmative action even further because it needs to be put in its proper context.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have some time in the future and invite you to come through, Mr. President. We thank you very much for your time.
I'll be happy, Pepper. Thank you very much indeed. I can now disappear.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. It's just after 9 o'clock. And of course, thank you very much for listening to the show this morning. Thank you to Sigi as well for 1 or 2 of your minutes there. And thank you to Vabakshini for allowing us to take a bit of your time there for the news as well. Thanks to the team for putting it all together for us this morning. We're back in Johannesburg tomorrow. And as we mentioned a bit earlier on, we'll be talking tomorrow to DA leader Helen Zille. We'll be raising some of the issues that came through on the show this morning. It is just after 9 o'clock in time for your latest news then. And morning talk with Sigi coming through from the WEF here in Cape Town. Hello, Sigi. Sigalelwa.